Most people think they've already figured out Casey LaDelle. To them, he's just the guy behind massive recoveries, powerful trucks, and impossible roadside saves. But what if the story everyone believes isn't the real one? Because behind the viral moments is a series of decisions, setbacks, and calculated risks that viewers rarely notice. There were times when things went quiet, speculation started spreading, and assumptions took over. Yet the truth was far less dramatic, and and way more revealing. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on the side of Casey LaDelle almost nobody talks about, and why everyone might have gotten him completely wrong. Before the massive recoveries and high-tension pullouts became his signature, Casey LaDelle was already living the kind of life most people only see in short highlight clips. Viewers often assume channels like his are built purely for entertainment. Big machines, risky jobs, and satisfying rescues designed to rack up millions of views. But that assumption misses the reality completely. Casey isn't playing a character when the camera turns on. Heavy recovery is his real business, and every call comes with genuine pressure. One wrong move in this line of work doesn't just bruise an ego. It can destroy equipment, cost thousands, or put lives at risk. That's why the calm, methodical approach you see on camera isn't for show. It's the result of experience and knowing that rushing a recovery can spiral into a disaster fast. While some viewers chase the adrenaline, Casey is focused on precision. And here's where people started getting it wrong. When uploads slowed or certain jobs disappeared from the channel, speculation quietly crept in. Some assumed the excitement had faded. Others wondered if something bigger was going on behind the scenes. But what most didn't realize was that a single unexpected setback was about to test everything: his patience, his business, and his reputation in ways no one saw coming. For a channel built around momentum, progress, and showing up when people are in trouble, the silence didn't go unnoticed. Viewers began asking the same question: where did Casey go? When weeks stretched into months with fewer high-profile recoveries, theories started forming. Some figured he was scaling back. Others assumed the grind had finally caught up to him. But the real reason was far less dramatic and far more relatable. At one point, Casey openly shared that one of his critical trucks was down much longer than anyone expected. What looked like a straightforward mechanical issue turned into a drawn-out headache after the problem was initially misdiagnosed. Instead of a quick fix, he found himself chasing a fault that refused to disappear. Time kept passing, jobs had to be reconsidered, and the pressure quietly built in the background. Eventually, the culprit was traced back to something surprisingly small: an improperly installed O-ring that prevented the system from working the way it should. A tiny component caused a massive slowdown, and if you've ever dealt with stubborn mechanical problems, you know how frustrating that spiral can be. But this wasn't just about a broken truck. The situation exposed a side of the recovery world most viewers never think about: the financial strain, the mental weight, and the constant balancing act required to keep everything moving. And what this challenge revealed next would change how many people saw him entirely. Most viewers see the moment of triumph: the truck finally moving, the tension releasing from the winch line, the impossible recovery that somehow works out. What they don't see is the calculation happening long before the camera starts rolling. Because in heavy recovery, every decision is a gamble. The terrain, the weight, the angle, the weather. Get just one variable wrong, and the situation can flip from controlled to chaotic in seconds. This is the part of the job that separates professionals from thrill seekers. Casey has made it clear through his approach that patience beats speed every time. Rushing might look exciting, but it's also how equipment gets destroyed and repair bills stack up fast. And when the tools you rely on cost as much as a house, mistakes aren't just inconvenient. They can threaten the entire operation. Suddenly, his slower, more methodical style starts to make sense. To some viewers, caution can look like hesitation. Turning down certain recoveries might seem confusing when you're used to non-stop action. But from a business perspective, knowing when to say no is often what keeps the doors open. Not every job is worth the risk, no matter how incredible it might look on video. And that realization led to a decision that caught a lot of people off guard. One that sparked even more questions about what Casey was really prioritizing. Just when people thought they had Casey figured out, another shift caught viewers by surprise. There were stretches where the off-road recoveries, the kind that usually pull huge numbers, weren't showing up as often. Almost immediately, the guessing started. Some wondered if he was stepping away from the toughest jobs. Others quietly questioned whether the risk had finally become too much. But once again, the reality was far more strategic than emotional. Heavy recovery isn't just about what can be done, it's about what should be done at a given time. Weather patterns change, ground conditions become unpredictable, and certain seasons dramatically increase the odds of equipment damage. Pushing through those factors might create a dramatic video, but it can also create preventable problems. Casey's approach has always leaned toward long-term stability rather than short-term excitement. And that kind of discipline often gets misunderstood online. Because when viewers are used to constant adrenaline, smart restraint can look like retreat. In truth, choosing safer, more practical jobs is often the exact move that keeps a business alive year after year. It's less about chasing the next viral moment and more about protecting the foundation everything is built on. But while the outside world kept debating his choices, Casey was quietly investing energy into something most creators never prioritize, and it revealed a completely different layer of who he really is. While some viewers stayed focused on recoveries and machinery, a quieter story was unfolding in the background. One that said far more about Casey's priorities than any viral video ever could. Instead of treating his platform as just a content engine, he began exploring ways it could directly help people. What started as a typical creator support system slowly evolved into something with a deeper purpose. Through his community, Casey introduced the idea of pooling resources to assist individuals and organizations facing real hardship. It wasn't positioned as a spotlight moment or a headline-grabbing gesture. If anything, the tone felt practical. Identify a need, figure out a solution, and step in where possible. But as the effort grew, he also became transparent about the challenges that come with giving publicly. Helping one person can unintentionally create expectations for many others, and managing that responsibly requires careful thought. So rather than project run on autopilot, he openly discussed reworking how the support system should function moving forward. That level of honesty surprised people. Most creators quietly avoid those conversations, and it revealed something important. Casey wasn't just thinking about impact in the moment, he was thinking about sustainability. Because what happened next would show that this mindset wasn't theoretical. It was already being put into action in ways many viewers never fully noticed. Talk is easy. On the internet, big promises show up every day and scan and disappear just as fast. That's why actions tend to separate the creators people casually watch from the ones they genuinely trust. And in Casey's case, there were moments where the camera captured something more meaningful than a difficult recovery. When situations hit communities and people suddenly found themselves dealing with circumstances far beyond their control, Casey didn't just acknowledge it and move on. He showed up. Whether it meant using his equipment, his time, or his reach to support someone trying to get back on their feet, the focus shifted from machinery to humanity. These weren't overproduced feel-good segments either. If anything, they felt grounded. Problem first, solution second, spotlight optional. What makes that notable is how easily those efforts could have been turned into dramatic content. Instead, they were presented with a matter-of-fact tone, almost as if helping was simply part of the job description. And that's when a pattern started to emerge. Behind the precision, the caution, and the business-minded decisions was someone clearly playing a long game, building not just a channel, but a reputation people could rely on. Yet even with that consistency, many viewers still misunderstood what was driving him, which leads to the biggest realization of all. So when you step back and look at the full picture, it becomes clear why so many people got Casey LaDelle wrong. What Liddell mistook for slowing down was actually discipline. What looked like hesitation was experience making the call. And what some overlooked entirely was a steady effort to build something that lasts, not just a channel, but a reputation. In a space driven by noise and non-stop spectacle, Casey's approach feels almost unusual, calculated, transparent, and grounded in real-world responsibility. Maybe the real takeaway is this: the loudest story isn't always the truest one. Sometimes, consistency is the biggest reveal of all.